Good afternoon, good evening, students. I hope you're doing good. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're back with another lecture concerning literature. As you can see, it will be about the same book entitled Hard Times, written by Charles Dickens. During the previous videos, we had the summary and the analysis of the first 8 chapters. In today's video, we are going to have both summary and analysis as well of the last 8 chapters of book the first, entitled Sewing. Anyways, before I start, as usual, I invite you to like the Facebook page of this channel in order to be notified whenever I post something new, and also subscribe to my channel if it's not already done. That would encourage me to do more and also help you out during the period of exams. So, we start with the summary of the 8 chapters, or the last 8 chapters. So the 9th chapter starts with the fact that Sissy Jupe, or Cecilia, wasn't feeling at ease at school, of course, because she couldn't adapt to the atmosphere of facts only. We said that Cecilia was more into emotions, feelings, fancy, rather than being rational, reasonable, so she couldn't adapt to the atmosphere of rationality and facts only. And you have Louisa talks with Sissy Jupe about Sissy's life with her father. Then Louisa started feeling some strong emotions, but her brother Tom kept telling her to be careful about Bounderby, who can catch her wandering. And the word wandering keeps coming back in the story because it was forbidden for Gradgrind's children to wander because it was against the teachings of their father. Then you have one night in Coketown, of course, there was a man named Stephen Blackpool. A quick background about this character: he was very poor. He was married to a drunk woman due to their extreme poorness, of course, and he was in love with a new girl named Rachel. And Rachel is one of the good characters who shares the same point of view as Sissy Jupe about life. So, like I said, one day in Coketown there was a man named Stephen Blackpool who works at Mr. Bounderby as well. On his way home, he talks to a charming and honest woman named Rachel, and he loves her. Then he goes back home to his drunk wife. The next day, Stephen goes to see Mr. Bounderby, whether he can help him divorce his drunk wife, and marries Rachel. But Bounderby refuses. Not only he refuses, but also tells Stephen to accept his bad and poor situation, and divorce is only made for the rich people. Then you have Stephen gets outside Bounderby's house and meets an old woman from the country or the countryside to Coketown to see Mr. Bounderby every year. She follows Stephen to Bounderby's factory and she loves it. She praises it. She admires its structure and the way it was built and all. At the end of the day, Stephen refused to go home to his drunk wife, and he starts imagining a happy life that he could have with Rachel. He eventually decides to go home, and he was shocked to find Rachel in his house next to his drunk wife, and apparently his wife was sick. Rachel decides to take care of the wife of Stephen and asks him to sleep in the chair. He did so, and he wakes up and sees his wife trying to take a lethal dose of drugs in order to commit suicide. He couldn't act, then Rachel intervenes and throws the pills away. In other words, Rachel saved the life of the drunk wife of Stephen. Then you have another scene, another place where Mr. Gradgrind tells Sissy Jupe that she can no longer, or she is no longer able to adapt, but she can still stay at his house and take care of Mrs. Gradgrind. Mr. Gradgrind also becomes a member of the Parliament in England, and Tom became someone who seeks only the pleasure of life, since he was working at Mr. Bounderby's bank. So he got a little bit wealthy and all, so he started changing. And Tom tells Louisa that Mr. Gradgrind is arranging a marriage for her with Mr. Bounderby. And Bounderby was like 55 years old, and Louisa was too young for him. And Tom encourages Louisa to accept the marriage in order to live together whenever she moves with Mr. Bounderby. Then you have at the end of the chapter, Mr. Gradgrind tells Louisa about the marriage, and she accepts to please her father, but she didn't want to marry Mr. Bounderby. I mean, she doesn't even know how to love. This is the end of the summary. Now we move to the analysis. When it comes to the analysis, during these chapters, the novel talks about the hard situation of the working class. It also shows that there are some good characters within the story who are willing to give love, but they have a rough situation, like Stefan. It gives another opposition, of course, between the good character, Stefan, when he talks and imagines a happy life with Rachel and all, and on the other hand you have Mr. Bounderby, a rough and dark and heartless character who refuses to help his worker and tells him to accept his bad situation. And Bounderby also keeps talking as usual about being a self-made man, and also talks about lazy people and how they can rise just like him unless they had his will. Another thing that these chapters show us is the working class. Okay, the working class kept being referred to with the word hand, which is the part of their bodies that performs their jobs. They were not calling them a man or woman, they were calling them hand, because it was the only thing that was important to them, because using their hands, or thanks to their hands, they can perform their work in the factories. This is to push people to ask some questions. Why were they so neglected, this category of people? And one more thing which is also important, it's about homes. They were considered to be places of relaxation, but in the story of Stephen, for example, the idea of relaxation was absent, because he found his wife back and he preferred to stay outside. Because you see, the wife of Stefan, the drunk wife, wasn't always at home, because she can leave for months, sometimes years, and then out of the sudden she comes back home. He finds her sleeping as usual. And here you understand that homes that were supposed to be places of relaxation after a hard day of work in the factories, you are supposed to go home, relax, you find your family, you just forget the troubles of work and all. But for Stefan it wasn't the case. He comes back, he leaves the factory, he goes to his home, and he finds his drunk wife laying in the bed. We also see two unhappy marriages within these chapters, which is the first one, Stefan and his wife, his drunk wife, and also at the end, Louisa and Mr. Bounderby. It is clearly seen that Louisa didn't want to get married with Mr. Bounderby. I mean, he was too old for her, and also she accepts because she wanted to please her father as usual. It was all about, or it was a matter of education and teachings. Anyways, this is a small analysis that I have done about these chapters. You can find other aspects, of course. You can find other information concerning the analysis of these chapters. Anyways, if you have any kind of questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below, or you can send a message to the Facebook page of this channel. I will answer you as soon as I see your message, and if you don't, I tell you, see you in the next video. Peace.